Hi, good afternoon. My name is Cristina Villacinda with Empleos and Employment, and today we're here with Tamara Gonzales. Tamara is our first Latino master. Tell me about your position with the Air Force.
I'm a master sergeant at the 121st Air Refueling Wing, but I am the first Latino first sergeant at that base and perhaps in the state of Ohio. So
Are you second generation or third generation?
Third generation.
You're third generation. I understand your grandparents came over here as a migrant workers, right?
Correct.
And they decided to make Toledo their home.
Right.
And so I understand that it took you a while before you actually decided to go to school. What made a difference in your life for you to make that decision to go back to school?
Well, there were several factors. I didn't really think about college education until I joined the military. And how that came about is I joined really just to get away from my neighborhood and to start a new life and, to try to get some type of goals. And I knew the military would open a door for me. When I was there in the military is when I found out that they paid for my education. And that I was listening to a lot of other soldiers, and they were all talking about going to college. Before that, I hadn't really thought about it. I knew I didn't have the money to do it, nor it wasn't really one of those things that's been implanted in your life. Finishing high school was the big deal back then.
And how do you end up going into the military? Was there somebody that mentored you, that said, hey, you should go here because this is a great opportunity for you?
Unfortunately, I wish that was true. But the Air National Guard does not recruit in the inner city, which is why you don't see a lot of people of color in the Air National Guard. It's 90% white male.
Wow.
So I had a older cousin, her name was Annie Menchaca, and she was in the military in the same branch. And I was like, well, I think I'm going to, just see what it's about. So I went and spoke to a recruiter, because we're third cousins. And I just decided. It was just one of those things that you just made a spontaneous decision. And I came home and told Mom I joined the military.
What was your parents' response when you told them that?
Shock at first, but my father was in the Air Force for 4 years when he was much younger, in his 20s, when he was still single. But proud, very proud. A little nervous, didn't, know how I was going to handle the basic training and things like that. I will say this, when I went through basic training, I graduated as an honor graduate.
Wow.
And only 1% get that, so that was pretty, I really worked hard when I was there to stay focused and to stay on task and to do the best that I could do so that my family could be proud when I graduated.
Excellent. Yeah. Now, we understand that you joined the military, you decided to pursue education, but you also had a family that you were raising at the same time. You had 2 kids, right?
Well, no. The kids came, when I first joined the military, about a year into service, maybe a year and a half, I met my then husband, and we were friends and we got married. About 2 years later, we had our children. So what I did was I stopped going to school to make sure that he had that I put him through school.
So you wanted to support him?
Well, I wanted to make him the breadwinner, to have the typical role as a man and the primary head of the household. So we focused in on his education, on his places of employment and his career path first. So I stopped going to school and focused in on his accomplishments and pushed him a lot.
So you stayed at home, you were raising the kids?
Right. I helped him with homework, a lot of homework. I wrote a lot of papers during that time for him.
Little that you knew that you were preparing yourself for the future, right?
Right. I had already had two years of college in my life at that time, so I didn't have much further to go at that point. My first goal was to become a lawyer. That's why I took communication, because I wanted to have the communication background to prepare me for when I was in front of the courtroom. That's why I took communications. It just kind of seemed like it would fit. But then after, let's say, fast forwarding, we were married for about 10 years. And towards the end, it was kind of rocky. So we decided to part ways. And at that point, I knew, since I would be on my own, and I was on my own, that I would have to finish my degree in order to be able to provide for my kids.
Good. And you have done a great job. Your kids are fantastic. I had the opportunity to meet them the other day, and one of them is actually following your footsteps, right? He's going to join the military next year.
Yep, actually both my kids are joining the military.
Both of them.
Yes,
Excellent.
they both are joining the military. My son will be joining next year. He's in the Civil Air Patrol, and we're getting him military ready right now. So we're working on getting him prepared for those transitions and what basic training is going to be like, what technical schools are going to be like, the kind of adversities that he's going to face, but all the opportunities that he's going to accomplish during this time. You know, he will be learning discipline, leadership, organizational skills. They'll teach him financial responsibility. You know, what better place as a mother to send your child out into the world when you know they're guaranteed, you know, shelter. They're in a gated community. You know, they're watched very closely. And they're taught all the leadership and discipline and a job skill set, as well as they're paying for their education. You know, so it made sense. And then all the other opportunities that are going to go, travel, meet in different cultures.
Absolutely.
You know, those are big eye openers, and that's what I want for both of my kids, because those experiences changed my life. Those experiences made me care about people more, made me want to give back to the community and help other people. I do a lot of mentoring because of that.
What was harder to be in the military, being a woman or being a Latina?
Ooh. Well, there's so few of both, but there's more women than Latinas. But there is actually a lot of Puerto Ricans, because we have a base out in Puerto Rico. But I didn't know that until later on. But in the state of Ohio, yeah, there's not many of us at all. At my base, there's approximately, well, let's say this, we're under 1% of the full population.
If you could do things again, would you join the military again? I mean, I
Yeah.
heard what you said about your kids, but as a woman, as a Latina, do you think this was a good path for you?
It was the best path. It was the best path for my life. The opportunities, I have traveled all over the United States, from East Coast to the West Coast, and everywhere in between. I've met so many different people within the United States, and I've made so many great connections within the United States. Then beyond that, all my travels overseas to Egypt, Turkey, Spain, Portugal, Ireland, and most recently to Qatar. I could not have traveled all those places if I did not join the military.
That's
You know,
excellent.
I could not have. I mean, there's no way I would have been able to afford that. So, and when you look back at it, a Mexican from Southside Toledo, you know, the opportunities that have been afforded to me and the travel that I've done, the military has been great to me. It has opened so many doors and taught me so many life lessons.
Tamara, how have you maintained your cultural life?
Well, my parents have instilled that they're very strong in their culture and their heritage. Probably the biggest fallback is the fact that I don't speak fluent Spanish. And that is because it was never spoken directly to me because it was a hindrance to them as minors. So they did not speak it directly to us growing up. But I've practiced all the, I listen to Mexican music all the time, me and my kids do. We dance, I just gave my daughter a quinceanera back in October up in Toledo because that's where most of my family reside at, and it made most sense. But I cook in Mexican, everything outside is being as fluent as I would like to be in Spanish. I'm 100%.
That you were for a short period of time working for corporate America.
Correct.
And your experience there led you to go back to the military because that's where your heart and your mind is. Now, what if you have to go back to corporate America, what would you like to see an employer offer you?
Well, corporate America, they paid well. Okay, let me say that. They paid well, they did, but they were very limited and very closed-minded, and they did not take ownership. It was easy to pass the buck. No one wanted to take ownership or make a decision. In the military, that's not because of, your rank. Somebody's going to take ownership, and we teach our younger airmen to step up when they say they made a mistake and to, accept it, but to learn from those mistakes. Everybody's going to be, make mistakes in their lives. In corporate America, it really baffled me to see grown men, and again, it was primarily white men, they were afraid to make decisions, afraid to step outside of the box, as well as, they were basing their skills based on what other people were looking at them. So they did what the majority did instead of stepping up and stepping outside. Now, I was a business analyst at OCLC, and I butted heads with a lot of leadership roles, but I took the initiative. I started as an administrative manager, and I was promoted to a business analyst within 4 years. So I went from a step 9 to a step 13 in 4 years, which is pretty good, but it's because, I'm not afraid, or let me say, I'm not fearful of people in leadership roles, because they're just a human being. And so I approach them with full respect, and I talk to them very bluntly, and I put forth my ideas, and sometimes they're accepted, other times they're not.
Tell me 3 words that define yourself.
I'm ambitious, positive, and spiritual.
Great. A message to Latina women?
To embrace your culture and all the traits that we have as Latinas, the strong woman that we are, the dynamics that we have, the multitasking, the multi-heads, counselor, all those things I mentioned previously, and to utilize those skill sets. But beyond that, to pursue an education, to never stop learning. Never stop learning. I am constantly, to this day, I'm in a learning process all the time. Reading, listen to audiobooks. I do whatever I can to keep on learning so I can improve myself.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Tamara.